Hi, welcome. In this video, I want to offer up a cautionary tale when it comes to what trainers are marketing by way, again, of a picture of change, by way of appearances, without understanding why appearances can get people into a lot of trouble when it comes to how things look but aren't in terms of relationship, in terms of how the dog perceives you in that relationship. And this whole issue about, how dogs can gain an incredible amount of control in the relationship and look balanced. And this even plays into certain concepts I talk about, such as counter conditioning, using treats to change how the dog, feels. You hear this whole thing about emotion, trying to change the dog's emotions. And this is where people get blindsided into inherently flawed assumptions at that level. And again, I'm very specific when I talk about the role of influence to affect change by way, again, of, again, as, again, talk about the dog's level of stinking thinking happening as the dog is expressing control in the relationship, intercepting those moments, okay, in a proactive way. So here, you're gonna hear a trainer talking about, changing the perceptions of a dog. But again, I talk this whole issue about focus. Again, that's where you get into using treats, change the dog's focus. Again, I use the example in some of my videos talking about the chocolate bar, example. It's like, like a selfish child mouthing off at you, as in terms of your parental role, being disrespectful, and just out of nowhere you pull out a chocolate bar and kind of hold it to the side, and the selfish child pauses from the mouthing off at you part and to look at the wanting the chocolate bar, and again in that moment the appearance of calmness. But the question you have to ask yourself is that calmness associated with real calmness, okay, in terms of perceptions changing in terms of as a parent engaging the relationship the right way, or is that calmness a false picture based on a moment in which the focus changes, but the relationship isn't actually getting better at all? Understand that's what trainers are doing here, and even in terms of how they build bridges. And you get to hear this here, this trainer talking about, and the title of this video is "Fix Behaviors Without Corrections." Okay, so this is Bow Wow Bill interviewing this trainer. So let's play some of this to again offer some insight here as to why this is really a cautionary tale when it comes to so many trainers and dog owners out there.
A lot of people wanted to know how to get rid of a certain behavior, and you're like, guys, that's like week 7. And then most behaviors that they wanted to get rid of by week 7, they were just gone.
So here, and this is where I even talk about that word behavior, how it's used in a superficial way in terms of the relationship. Okay, so this is where you get this whole thing about superficial responses. Dogs are, can appear great. They're doing a sit for a treat, doing a down for a treat. Meanwhile, nothing's actually getting better. This is just bribery to the dog, because you're entering into a relationship problem in a very superficial way and just dispensing treats or something the dog wants, and you're just making that leap of faith into those responses as meaningful. And without bringing in, again, at the social level, I talk about your role. I talk about influence and control as the core ingredients to actually affect change, which isn't part of, okay, what this trainer is actually talking about.
Without ever dealing with it, just because, of course, they're learning how to communicate with the dog and then giving them fulfillment, and they never.
So, fulfillment, okay, and I talk about fulfillment by way of control. And think about the selfish child example, like always. Okay, that's helpful to always keep that in your hip pocket when you listen to these trainers. Because when you talk about fulfillment, okay, think about control, but think about the selfish child when you're engaging in certain themes. Okay, the theme I talk about those themes of bribery, accommodation, and negotiation. They can offer up you can gain agreeableness. Okay, they can offer up a image of change without change. Okay, I understand it's context here. You have to apply context to agreeableness. Okay, just like, again, this is the problem. Dogs are social animals. Understand that when you engage, try to build a picture of change and you're talking about fulfillment, understand its context here.
never even had to correct the behavior to be.
So right here, say, so as we're saying, fulfillment, not correcting the behavior, but it's not behavior; it's an expressed state. Okay, so when you hear these phrases, you use the word behavior. Understand that that is a red flag, which indicates they're just dialed in a very superficial way to the relationship. They're taking the word behavior and applying it to certain responses. And typically, these dogs are just moving around for treats, but they're not. It's not changing how they think about you. Okay, how they perceive you in the relationship.
Begin with because it just went away.
It
Like
went
that's
away.
huge. That's a big.
So you just say it just went away. Like, okay, well, let's talk about that some more. Did it really go away? Now I talk about this is why I get into this whole thing about these trainers who, I talk about what is the proper way to even assess the current state of the relationship. And really think about this. I mean, carry this over to the parent-child dynamic. Okay, when is the bad attitude of the child revealed? Well, it's through certain engagement with the parent. They're putting a demand on the child, a reasonable demand to a certain expectation, like pick up your toys, clean up your room. And so and again, think about what's happening here in the dog training world, the exchange of like currency, right? Something to motivate a response. Well, pick up your toys and here's $100, or pick up your toys because you're the parent. There's a big difference in that, in what's revealed or not revealed, and then tie this into what are trained. Ask yourself the question: are trainers even asking those questions? Are they applying that standard or that test? No. They're just jumping in saying, "Oh, it looks good. It looks good, so I just assume it's good." And then layer that up with all the problems, with the fact of how many dog owners experience a bad picture of change. Well, there you have it.
Big one, and that happens to a lot of my clients, especially with reactivity, believe it or not.
Oh, I believe it.
Most of the time, if it's like not anything rooted in real aggression, it just like goes away. Like,
it just goes away. It just disappears. All right, but again, consider the selfish child example. They can look great. They're playing the video games. They know what they want to do. Well, always ask the question: well, when is truth revealed? In terms of your role, in terms of those core ingredients, in terms of just like parental influence, a demand. That's when the truth is revealed. Thanks for watching.